was summoned to the god realm. The goddess told him that he will be sent to a new world where magical means everything. Also, he was told that he gets some cheat skills. Followed, he looked forward to live a peaceful life. After that, he was reborn as a royal baby. His parents were happy to have a new family member. Then the king were proud to have his 8th child, and he wanted to use the magical assessment. So a servant tried to find out the power of his newborn son. Suddenly they find out that the magic power number was 2. He was shocked to find out that his son is weak like Son Goku. As a result, they got the idea to abandon their son and tell everyone in the kingdom that their son died during childbirth. So the Majesty ordered them to abandon him in a forest. Meanwhile, the goddess told another goddess that she messed the reincarnation up. The problem is, following this, Reinhardt was abandoned, and he couldn't move himself. Then he figured out how to use magic, and he concentrated his magic. As a result, he managed to create a barrier and turned it into many other forms. Suddenly he realized that he can use his cheat power to fly. Suddenly, a red Fenrir appeared and he was attacked. He realized that his barrier is very sturdy. Then he attacked the cheat power to attack the wolf with trees. The monster was alive and he got the idea to start his next attack. Suddenly, he heard a voice, who asked him to stop. Follow ability to speak as a baby. As a result, he used his barrier power and he was able to speak. Followed, Haruto decided to tell the red Fenrir that he is a demon king. Suddenly she thought Haruto will end her life, and she was ready to say goodbye. Haruto didn't want to kill someone and she thanked him, so he learned she was a flame Fenrir. Later he said to Flay goodbye and she was happy to get a name. Suddenly she told him that their familiar pact was formed. Haruto replied to her that Flay was just a nickname and he didn't want to enter a pact. Suddenly formed into a sexy MILF. So she turned into a cute girl and he blushed by seeing her naked in front of him. Followed, he tried to create some clothes with his bear. She wanted to have a baby with Haruto because only a mother could produce breast milk. Haruko got baby power Riz, that a MILF wanted to have fun with him. Suddenly they heard someone in the forest. A man appeared and said that he was searching a little baby. Followed, Flay told him the baby is her new master, so he belonged to her. The man said he just wanted to save the baby, and he also brought breast milk. Flay asked the man why he was planning to save the child, so he told Flay about his personal story, that his own baby died during childbirth. Because of this reason, he didn't want to let a helpless baby die in a forest. Flay was touched by the sad story and cried. As a result, the man offered Flay to be his personal attendant. After making the deal, they destroyed the basket. In addition, they faked the death of Haruto, and they were going to the knight's home. 9 years passed, and Haruto was living under the care of Margrave Gold. The only problem was that his cute little sister hated him. Followed, Flay served them the cooked soup, and Charlotte loved Flay. Then she wanted to play with Flay, but she refused. So her situation. She cheered him up and told him that Charlotte is maybe shy, because she didn't know how to act around a boy. Suddenly, Haruko was afraid that his little sister sensed he was an old man, who was reborn in their world. Later on he was thinking how he can get along with his sister, and he knew Slay would support him. Then he looked at his created clone, and his original plan was to travel the world, but he knew Charlotte will become sad if Flay travel with him. Suddenly, his father wanted to train him using the sword. Haruto told him he wanted to study lost magic, so he wanted to go back to his room. He dodged the attack of his father and wondered why his magic power was only 2. Then he remembered that he learned the Followed, they continued to train, and his little sister secretly watched him. In the evening, Haruto's father told his wife about the training with their son. He told her wife that he is maybe a demon because of his enormous power. The reason that confirmed his assumption was his royal insignia can live a happy life. Meanwhile, Charlotte was overhearing their talk, but she didn't believe that her brother is a demon. In the followed days, Haruto heard some voice outside, and he used immediately his barrier spell. So he saw many injured knights outside of their mansion. Haruto asked his father what had happened. He told him that their attack against bandits failed and they were ambushed. Then Haruto told her she should shut her mouth and she stopped badmouthing Gold. In addition, he healed secretly all injured knights. In the middle of the night, Haruto woke up and he needs to pee. Suddenly Flay were outside of his room, and he remembered about his word. Wanted to find the bandits who attacked his father. Finally, he finds some suspicious guy. Then we see some soldiers, who were spies of another kingdom. They told the bandits information about Haruto's father planned attack. Suddenly, Haruto appeared in front of them. Later on, he learned the guys were soldiers of the neighboring kingdom, and their goal was to infiltrate. Suspected that someone of his kingdom wanted to assassinate his father. Then the thieves thought Haruto would let them escape. but he ordered Flay to burn down the entire fort. He didn't want to let the soldiers alive, so Haruto went home with the plan to send his father an anonymous letter explaining what had happened. The next morning his father got the letter about the burned down fort. Gold was shocked to hear about the news. Then Charlotte asked his father that she have something to do. Followed, she wanted to find his big brother, because she saw them in the night flying, a scary aura. Flay was amazed that Charlotte was able to sense his Demon King aura, but she couldn't reveal Haruto's identity as Demon King. In addition, Flay said she will grow nice and big if she worries so much about such trivial matters. Afterwards, Flay reported to her master about Charlotte's questions. As a result, he prepared some countermeasures based on what his little sister do. In the night, Haruto was on his way to the bathroom, but Charlotte spied on him. So he tried to talk with her, but she ran away. Following this, he was bathing and he realized Charlotte spied on him again. In the following day, she followed him up of his mother and Charlotte. So he suggested to take Flay with them. Later, the surveillance barrier were sending him an alarm. His mother and sister were in trouble because Imperial soldiers tried to murder them. She wanted to save his daughter, but she was attacked. Father wondered about Charlotte's decisions. However, they find a cliff and Charlotte told her to jump down. So they were keep going and they managed to find the hidden place. Haruto's mother didn't knew. Followed, she wanted to find some help and told Charlotte to hide in the cave. Then she was trapped and she couldn't let herself be captured. So she decided to sacrifice her life since the scary aura of his brother. So she called the name of her big brother and he unintentionally reacted on his name. Then she asked if Haruto is a hero of justice. So Haruto replied he is a hero like Batman. Charlotte was very happy because she suspected the whole time that he uses his power to punish the bad guys. Few days later, they got a report and Gold wanted to thank the person who saved his family. Then Haruto was asked about his thoughts and he replied he is happy that the person was helping them. Suddenly Charlotte and Natalia arrived home and Gold was happy to see them. He hugged them and Charlotte greeted her big brother. He was surprised and his mother was very happy about them both. So Charlotte told their parents she loves Haruto now. Meanwhile, Flay was jealous and Haruto was happy that his little sister liked him. In the followed weeks, we see Charlotte entered Haruto's room and asked him to play with her. Since then, Charlotte has been barging into his room on a daily basis. Suddenly, she noticed the magic screen, and she thought that Haruto was using ancient magic. Charlotte got the idea to show him the library of the castle. Following this, Haruto learned that his family owned a library with many rare books, so Charlotte brought him many books about ancient magic to read and he said thanks. Then he began to read the books and had a lot of fun. Followed, Charlotte asked Haruto to read the books to her, and she decided to sit on his lap. Haruto was confused and she told him that her mother and Flay read the books while she sit on their laps. So he read the books, and it reminded him of animes. So Charlotte became curious and he explained her what anime exactly is. He thought that he screwed up and scared his little sister, but Charlotte was an anime fan too, and she wanted to learn more about animes. Haruto was grateful about such a nice little sister, and he got a great plan. In the followed weeks, Haruto's plan worked, and he got a modern Japanese internet connection. Then he made a child account for Netflix and surprised his little sister. Charlotte wanted to see a movie with a magical girl. Haruto started the movie and she was amazed by the moving pictures. However, Charlotte was happy to see an anime, but she couldn't understand the language. As a result, she asked him to teach her Japanese. Following this, Haruto was shocked, because his little sister managed to learn Japanese in just his sister found joy in anime, but he didn't want her to watch too much. After the Power Ranger episode ends, he stopped her to watch another episode. He decided to be a good big brother and just allowed her to watch 3 hours of TV a day. At dinner, Charlotte was very sleepy and his father wondered what they were doing. So Charlotte lied and said they just studied ancient magic together. After dinner, Charlotte wanted to see more anime, but he told her to take a bath and go to bed early. Glad that she just was interested about his royal insignia on his chest. She told him that the Red Power Ranger had an insignia too. Following this, Haruto went to sleep, and he noticed that Charlotte sneaked into his bed. Natalia was very happy when she saw that they had become so close. On the next morning, Gold told his family that he will arrest some thieves. Charlotte was worried and hoped her father comes back safely. Later, Haruto tried to cheer Charlotte up, and she asked why humans became thieves. Charlotte got a pure heart, and she asked Haruto if he could join the Nils in the kingdom. So she expected that he transformed to a Power Ranger and fight against the bad guys. Haruto used his barrier power and created a Power Ranger cosplay to make Charlotte happy. Then Charlotte wanted to accompany him, but he told her to stay home and watch his fight on the TV. Then he tried to fulfill his duty as big brother. Haruto found with his barrier power the thieves, and he caught them in a barrier. He thought that Charlotte wants to see some action scenes, and he introduced himself as the hero of justice. The thieves tried to attack him, but Haruto knocked them all out with ease. Suddenly his father appeared and he was asked about his name. Then Haruto tried to think of a name, but he had no idea and called himself Still Pending. Gold asked about his goal, and he replied as an enforcer of justice to punish the villains. In the evening, Charlotte admired his performance and asked him when he will head out again. In the followed day, months passed, Haruto finally finished his perfect clone, who was able to interact like himself. Following this, we see Princess Marianne said to her brother Prince Laius to stop his rudeness. Haruto wondered if they are his blood-related siblings. Following this, Gold apologized, and Marianne told him to stop for abusing his power. Mated him, and he used his power to find out his magic power. So Haruto find out his brother is level 9 and he noticed that he is very weak. In the meantime, he was attacked, but Haruto dodged his attack. He was angry, and Haruto used his barrier to let him attack. So he acted like a weakling, and his brother allowed him to fight back. So Haruto used his chance and punished Laius. Marianne didn't believe that Haruto is only level 2 because he used strong spells. Followed Laius got very angry and attacked with a dangerous fireball. But Haruto used his invisible barrier and absorbed all of his fireball attacks. Marianne stopped him, and he didn't know what had happened. As a result, Haruto explained him that he can absorb magic, and he told him that he can return his fireballs all at once. After the fight, Marianne apologized for her brother's insolence, Green suspicious people, and she told Flay about Haruto's mission. As a result, Flay asked him to let her join on his missions to punish the villains. Charlotte was delighted with her idea, and Haruto tried to refuse. But Charlotte convinced Haruto to accept Flay as his new sidekick. Later they located the bandits in the forest. Then the Black Knight showed up and said he will punish them like Batman. Flay introduced herself as the Crimson Knight and they wondered who Flay is. Suddenly Flay burned them down and Haruto tried to stop her. The reason is her actions was elected and she decided to cast stronger spells. In the last moment, Haruto punished her and said that she must not use drastic force. Flay said she just got the intention to protect her beloved master, and he convinced her to stop. Following this they went home, and Charlotte was amazed by Flay's performance. Haruto next time, and Charlotte looked forward for the next mission. Afterwards we see Laius and he was angry because he was beat up by Haruto. Followed his servants told him he needs to ask Charlotte tomorrow to join him. His servant told him he can't refuse because it's an order from his mother. Following this, Charlotte told her big brother that the banquet end. He went down to eat and his clone hated Haruto, who forced him to go to the banquet. Suddenly his clone got insane and Charlotte was worried about Haruto number 2. Also he learned that his blood-related brother invited Charlotte on a tour and he hoped that the prince isn't into little girls. Later he checked all the ways to protect his little sister. Suddenly, he found suspicious guys in the forest who created a magic circle. Haruto decided to visit them and he asked them about their plan. They got angry and prepared an attack against Haruto. As a result, Haruto used his Black Knight skills and beat them all up with his Power Ranger spell. One of the mage summoned skeleton soldiers and commanded them to attack. However, Haruto used a sword and he cut them into small pieces. But the skeletons recovered themselves and tried to attack him again. Haruto used his barrier and he discovered the red cores of the skeleton soldiers, so he gained the control of them and commanded the skeletons to attack the enemies. Following this, a mage summoned with his last power a huge golem. Haruto underestimated the strong golem and was smashed into a tree. Then he thought about a plan to defeat him, and he found the core of the golem. Haruto dodged the golem's attack, and he prepared the final blow. As a result, he commanded him to attack the mages. Haruto explained them he gained the control of their monster and told them to surrender. In the end, all of them were caught, and Haruto tried to get information about them. The leader refused to answer, and Haruto came up with the great idea of forcing him to tell him about the culprit. After that, he learned they were sent by Queen Consort, who planned to assassinate Charlotte. In addition, he was told that Charlotte's aptitude will surpass even Queen Consort's someday. Haruto was shocked to learn that Queen Consort was the culprit, who tried to murder his family. Then he thought that he was abandoned, because Queen Consort tried to protect her own status. Haruto was furious, and he unintentionally commanded the golem to attack one of the mage. After that, Haruto won't let anyone took away the people who he loves and got the intention to punish his biological mother. In the followed day, Flay accompanied them on the trip. Then Charlotte tried to cheer Laius up and said he never stood a chance of winning and should be proud for surviving a fight against Haruto. He got angry, and Marianne began to tease him too. Haruto tried to calm him down, but Laius couldn't accept his loss in the duel. Suddenly, Laius assumed that Haruto was a returned demon. Charlotte explained him that a returned demon is a person who is half human and half demon. Then Marianne asked if he got demonic traits, but Charlotte said his brother's skin is smooth and shiny because she bathed with him. They misunderstood something and thought he is into little girls. Charlotte was an innocent little girl, and Marianne didn't know what she should say. Suddenly the carriage stopped, and they arrived at the destination. So Charlotte was excited to see the wheat fields and asked Marianne to play with her. Then Haruto got some questions and wanted to talk with his father. Gold realized he wanted to discuss something important with him, so he asked what he would do if Queen Consort were after Charlotte's life. Gold started to tell him that he got a letter from the Black Knight. He knew she regarded his family as her enemy, but he cheered Haruto up and said he will protect them. Then he told Haruto that King Jill fell from power long ago, and many nobles tried to usurp the throne. He told Haruto that nobody messed with them, because long time ago, Giselot took the Demon King's head and was sailed as a hero. Since then, Giselot tried to take the kingdom for herself. Following this, Gold said if someone powerful showed up to replace the Queen Consort, everyone would accept it. Because of this reason, she is after Charlotte, and he knew his daughter will easily surpass the magic power of Giselot. After that, he asked his son to keep Charlotte safe, and he accepted his request. Later, Flay told him she will bring him the queen's head, but Haruto told her it's his problem. So he told Flay that he with all his might. In the following weeks, it was reported to Queen Consort that the assassination had been prevented by the Black Knight. She asked why her servants failed to murder a little girl and planned to go kill Charlotte with her own hands. Suddenly, Haruto appeared in his Black Knight costume and Queen Consort underestimated him. She cast a spell and locked Haruto in a water cage. Haruto freed himself, but Queen Consort tried to defeat him with ice lances. She then cast her powerful Inferno spell and planned to burn her opponent down along with his clothes. Then Queen Consort thought she had weakened him, but he was unharmed, and Haruto attacked her with a Power Ranger laser beam. She managed to block his attack, and he decided to get serious. Queen Consort realized that she will soon be out of mana, and she attacked with her sword. Haruto parried her attacks, but the ground crumbled and the queen thought she would win the fight. Queen Consort looked down on the Black Knight, but Haruto was just playing with her and he defeated her with ease. And he demanded that she never lay a single finger on Margrave Gold Zenfi's family again. Afterwards, he said that the collar will never come off until he forgave her. Queen Consort cried and couldn't believe she had lost. Flay later told her masters have appeared. Haruto was watching his sister playing in the snow, and he wanted to go to his room because the winter was too cold for him. Haruto also noticed that Charlotte has become a typical anime otaku. Later, Haruto asked if Flay wasn't cold in the winter with her maid outfit. Haruto noticed that she was lying, and he created her a winter outfit that made her very happy. Then Charlotte had a request for her big brother, and she said that she was thinking of a special, but he couldn't refuse her wish. So Haruto started his performance, and he created a huge tornado. Haruto found the pose he had to do embarrassing, but he granted Charlotte her wish, and he appeared and they discovered that huge hole. Haruto created an illusion of the Black Knight, and his parents knew that he caused the huge hole. A short time later, Charlotte was playing with Flay, and Gold said nothing had happened since the last incident. In addition, Gold told his son the rumors about the queen. Then Haruto enjoyed the peaceful time and he was sure that he could relax in his room from now on. Suddenly Gold said that he had to go to school in the capital in the spring, and he was shocked by the news. Haruto couldn't believe he had to go to school and he froze in fear. Following this, Gold asked if he was okay, but he was disappointed that he couldn't lock himself in his room to watch Netflix every day. In the afternoon, Gold tried to convince his son, and he knew that Haruto wasn't interested. Gold suspected that Princess Marianne was interested in him, and he wondered why she invited him to an elite school. In addition, Haruto learned that Laius would also be going to school, and he didn't want to see him. Then Haruto was told that he can take an attendant with him, and he also knew that Flay would cause too much trouble. Suddenly Natalia appeared, and she wanted to accompany her son to school, but Gold and Haruto refused. Haruto replied that it would be strange to bring his mother as an attendant, and thought about how he could avoid going to school. In the evening he told his clone about school, and he didn't feel like going instead of Haruto. In the evening, Haruto asked if his clone wanted to go to school, and he said that school will be fun. Unfortunately, Haruto too declined, and he didn't like Haruto's ideas at all. Then Haruto too found out that Haruto planned to replace him, but he was just kidding, and said Charlotte made him feel guilty. Afterwards, Haruto too was forced to show his incompetence in battle, and Haruto promised to protect him with his barrier magic. Haruto too knew he had no choice, and he accepted the deal with Haruto. A few months later, we see Haruto in his log house that he built by a river. He planned to relax there alone, but Charlotte visited him every day to watch anime. Then we see Charlotte, and her favorite thing to watch was an anime about magical girls. Haruto thought that she didn't like the anime anymore, but she explained that she didn't attend it because she had a lot to study. Then Haruto said that he can use teleportation magic, and that way she can watch more anime. Charlotte was impressed by his teleport. Flay suggested he use his clone for this, and he opened a portal to get Haruto too. Haruto was angry at his clone, and Flay jumped into the portal because she wanted to punish him. Then Charlotte asked if Haruto too is fine, and he thought that there was an angel standing in front of him. Later, Haruto built a teleportation door, and he realized that he still needs to find an attendant. In the days that followed, Flay cleaned the windows, and Charlotte watched her beloved series. Meanwhile, Haruto remembered that he had forgotten to look for an attendant again. He went outside and planned to take a walk in the forest. The reasons are that he didn't want Flay to get jealous, and he wondered where he would get an attendant from. Then he followed a light, and he remembered that the place has become a habitat for skeletons. The skeleton army he defeated 5 years ago became his loyal allies. As a result, he gave them a land to live in, implied that he just happened to walk by. Then he learned that all the stray monsters had no home, and Flay had brought them to the village. Haruto was surprised that the district, and Johnny told him about the different types of vegetables in the district. After that, Haruto was surprised by the farming skills of the skeleton army. Johnny showed him more districts, and Haruto realized that Johnny would be the perfect attendant for him. He planned to give him a human body, but Johnny talked way too much. As a result, he decided to choose another attendant, but he praised Johnny for his good work. Later, Johnny planned to show him more districts, but he said goodbye. Haruto was exhausted, and a wild Pokemon appeared next to him. Haruto remembered that he had already caught him, and his Pokemon gave him a flower. Then Haruto learned that Regigigas could talk, and he wanted to take him along as an attendant. Unfortunately, he was too big, and he learned that Regigigas loves him as a master. When he arrived at his house, Flay asked him about an attendant, and Haruto remembered that his father didn't allow him to take Flay with him. She was disappointed that she wasn't allowed to come to school with him. The following morning, Charlotte told her big brother that she had come up with a new hero name. Afterwards, Charlotte went to visit the monster city, and she was impressed. She thought of a name and called the city Pandemonium. Then we see a blizzard dragon, and adventurers tried to hunt it. The blizzard dragon tried to escape, and the adventurers wouldn't let him escape. Suddenly, the blizzard dragon fell, and he was seriously injured by all the arrows. The following day, Haruto learned about a blue dragon. Gold said that the dragon crashed due to the battle within Imperial borders. Gold then asked Flay to investigate the case, but she refused, and Haruto forced her to accept the assignment. Haruto learned that Flay didn't want to save the dragon because the demon had hid like a coward while fighting the humans several years ago. Then Haruto thought about whether he should take care of the case, and Charlotte eavesdropped on them. She felt sorry for the dragon and asked Flay if she could save the dragon. Haruto convinced Flay, and she also decided to burn the adventurers. Later they went looking for the dragon, and Haruto went off to rescue the dragon. Suddenly the adventurers appeared, and he tried to calm Flay down. A short time later, the blizzard dragon was healed, and the dragon attacked Haruto with her ice breath. Haruto was angry at the rude dragon, and he learned that the dragon can speak human language too. Suddenly she started asking Flay why a strong demon obeys a human. Flay replied because Haruto is her beloved master, and she couldn't stop gushing about him. The blizzard dragon thought that Haruto was the demon king. Then Haruto learned that they were similar, and he was amazed by the dragon. Following this, the blizzard dragon told them that she lived in a cave, and one day an adventurer forgot a book. From that day on, she found a new passion, and she left her cave to find new books. She often went to the cities in human form to bring books to her cave. However, she was discovered by adventurers, and she was hunted by them. Flay felt her pain, and she invited the blue dragon to enter the city of Pandemonium. Then Haruto asked if she agreed to the suggestion, and the blizzard dragon was extremely happy because she read about those moments in the books. She introduced herself as the blizzard dragon, and she accepted Haruto as her new master. Haruto immediately conjured up a maid outfit for her, and she was confused by Haruto's magical powers. Haruto then introduced himself and thought of a name for the blizzard dragon. He called her Lisa and she was happy to hear the name of her new master. Meanwhile, Flay became jealous and she clarified that she is Haruto's first servant. Then Haruto wanted to show Lisa her new home, and he ordered her to follow him. Lisa flew in the sky with Haruto, and Flay ran back because she didn't want to lose to her new rival. In the following morning, Haruto introduced Lisa, who planned to work as a maid for the Margrave family. Charlotte was happy to meet Lisa and she welcomed her to the family. Gold was surprised that Lisa was a dragon and he left her in the care of Haruto. In the afternoon, Flay explained to her the duties of a maid, and she destroyed a broom. Lisa swept up the broom, and she passed her first task. Flay then showed her other duties as a maid, and Flay destroyed several plates. Then Flay tried to cook, but Lisa proved that she was perfect for the job as a maid. So she cooked dishes that could have come from a fine restaurant and she served it Haruto's family. In the evening, Haruto's family tried the delicious dishes and Flay sulked in a corner because she failed at all the maid tasks. Afterwards, Natalia praised her for being a good maid, and she had the idea that Lisa could become Charlotte's personal maid. Lisa was happy, and Flay felt useless as a maid. The following morning, Lisa woke Charlotte up and she began her duties as Charlotte's personal maid. Later, Charlotte had magic lessons and Lisa showed her how to use magic. Afterwards, Lisa helped Charlotte learn, and she was grateful for Lisa's help. A few days passed and Charlotte showed her big brother that she could create a giant fireball. Suddenly, Haruto asked Lisa about the water and he was surprised that she was getting her other work done while teaching Charlotte magic. He thought she needed a break, and Charlotte thought she was a burden to Lisa. Lisa replied that she was enjoying her time with Charlotte, and Charlotte said that she would like to become a good friend of hers. As a result, the two girls became good friends, and Haruto appreciated being able to witness this adorable moment. Haruto liked Lisa, and he realized that she was the perfect attendant for him. Unfortunately, he didn't want to separate the two girls and he decided to find another attendant. Suddenly he remembered that he could use teleportation magic to solve his attendant problem. Then few weeks passed and Charlotte was depressed because her favorite anime ended. After that, Haruto told her that he had to go to school soon. Charlotte knew it was an emergency, and she cancelled all of her appointments to meet the others for an emergency meeting. They met at the round table, and Charlotte told them that Haruto was planning on going to school. Charlotte tried to calm Flay down, and she didn't understand why the Demon King had to go to school. Flay remembered that they weren't supposed to mention this in front of Charlotte. Johnny cheered her up and said that she is loved by Haruto, and she stands considerably above them. Then Charlotte discussed with the others why Haruto accepted to go to school. Everyone was shocked, and Charlotte suspected that there was a hidden student council in the school. She believed that they were an evil organization that mistreated nice students. As a result, Charlotte believed that Haruto was infiltrating the school as a Black Knight. They understood Haruto's reason, and they decided to secretly help him with the infiltration. So everyone agreed to find the villains, but Lisa believed that they should discuss it with Haruto first. Charlotte and Flay said that they were only disturbing Haruto's work, and the Knights of Round Table decided to act without orders from Haruto. In the evening, Lisa told Haruto about Charlotte's plan, and he thanked her for the information. Lisa asked him if he was fighting against an evil syndicate. Haruto didn't want to hurt her feelings, and he replied that he was fighting against evil. He also asked her to go with him to the capital as his attendant. However, she decided to go to the capital with him, and he planned to get expelled from school as soon as possible. A few days later, we see Flay talking with some maids. She gave advice to them and they were grateful for the advice. Later, Charlotte asked why Flay made her outfit different from the other maids. She replied that the normal maid outfits didn't fit her. As a result, she received a custom-made outfit that Haruto made for her. Suddenly, Charlotte saw Lisa flying in the air and she asked Flay if she could fly. She replied that she had the skills and Charlotte wanted to learn from her. Flay lied to her, and she just pretended she could fly. However, Charlotte believed her lie, and Haruto was shocked that Charlotte believed her. After that, Natalia showed up, and she didn't allow Charlotte to learn flight magic because it's dangerous. Flay couldn't see Charlotte's sad face, and she asked Haruto for help. He was willing to help her and gave her a plane so Charlotte could fly without getting hurt. Later, Charlotte wanted to go bathing in the castle with Flay, but she had another plan. She swam in a river and she cleaned herself. In the evening, Haruto learned about Lisa's life spent in a cave. He admired her and was jealous because he couldn't live such a chilling life. Then Lisa was curious about the teleportation door. She didn't understand his explanation, but she thought he was a genius. Following this, Charlotte and Lisa were bathing in Haruto's self-made onsen. Then they learned that Flay doesn't like going into hot water, but the girls convinced her and said that Haruto had built it by himself. A few days later, we see Flay, and she started to love the onsen. In the night, Haruto planned to check their mana levels and he was surprised. Suddenly he saw Charlotte's mana level and learned that Natalia had her powers sealed because she was too overpowered. Then Charlotte asked Haruto about his mana level and he changed the subject. A few days later, his parents told him to be careful on his journey. Flay was sad that she wasn't chosen, and Charlotte wished him good luck on his secret mission. Meanwhile, Marianne told her brother that she had received a reply from the Margrave family. So Laius was looking forward to seeing him again, and he had admired Haruto since his defeat in the duel. Then he teased his sister and said that she has a crush on him. She was shocked that he knew about it, and Laius replied that he was just joking. That's how he found out that Marianne had a crush on Haruto. Afterwards, Laius asked if his sister had heard about a weird cultist. She replied that the Church of Lucifer is supposed to worship demons, except she said that this new cult received donations from many nobles. Laius heard rumors that her mother was involved, and he wondered what she was planning. He feared that she was planning to overthrow the king, and he was afraid that the kingdom would fall. Suddenly Marianne said that she thinks Haruto could solve the problem. She believed that his power could bring peace throughout the world. Laius was surprised, and he told his sister about the Black Knight. Suddenly Queen Consort appeared, and her children had been afraid of her. She attacked Marianne, and she imagined that her daughter was looking down on her. Laius tried to calm her mother, and she replied that she had no intention of killing Marianne. After that, she told Laius to get along well with Haruto at school. She whispered to him that if he found out any information about the Black Knight, he must tell her everything. He was terrified by his mother, and he couldn't refuse her orders. Then, Queen Consort left the room, and her own children were afraid of their mother. Laius had a bad conscience, and he didn't want to spy on Haruto. Later Charlotte told her brother that he had to go to the capital. Flay asked to take her with him, but he refused. Charlotte said that she will take care of his place, and she told him to be careful on his mission. So he set off, and he found himself in a forest near the capital. On the way, Lisa discovered that people are being hunted by a huge evil bison. Haruto decided to put on his battle suit, and he planned to save the people. Following this, he used his barrier spell, and he saved a little boy who almost died. Meanwhile, a girl tried to stop the monster, and Haruto didn't help her because he thought she was strong. Suddenly, the bison threw her into the air, and she was injured. At the last moment, Black Knight appeared, and he saved the girl from the monster. Haruto noticed that she was injured, and he healed her with his barrier magic. She was surprised by his magic, and the rescued boy was worried about her. Then he saw Black Knight, and he thanked him for saving him. Afterwards, he showed his embarrassing performance, and the boy thought he was awesome. In addition, Haruto repaired the carriage, and he surprised her again with his magic. Iris thought that Black Knight expected a reward, but he didn't want one. Then he said he will left them, and he took care about the defeated bison, who was just hungry. Later, Haruto fed the bison with some vegetables and they went off to the capital. Lisa said that the girl felt strange, but Haruto thought he wouldn't see her again. When he arrived in the capital, he was shocked by the many students lining up. After that, he lined up too, and the students scared him so much that he planned to go home. Following, he filled up the paperwork, and he was exhausted by the stressful day. In the afternoon, he was allowed to enter his room, and he immediately created a teleportation door to his hiding place. Charlotte and Flay were already waiting for him to return, and he wanted to lie down immediately. Suddenly, Charlotte whispered something in Flay's ear, and she convinced Flay that they should have lunch in the capital. However, Charlotte dressed Flay to hide her demon ears, but Haruto cast a spell on her. Then, they entered the teleportation door to the capital, and Charlotte discovered a restaurant. After that, they ate lunch together, and he felt blessed when he saw the adorable friendship of Lisa and his little sister. Out of nowhere, Charlotte showed them a map, and she planned to look around the city, thinking that Haruto was fighting enemies in the capital. Haruto just played along because he likes to see his sister smile. Then she said that they were going on a date, and he was happy with her words. He loved his little sister, but he thought she didn't understand the true meaning of a date. However, he accompanied his little sister on her first date, and he wanted to spend a nice day with her. Charlotte was enjoying the day, and she spotted a jewelry dealer. He gave her a pendant and she thanked him. In the evening, Charlotte accidentally ran into a person. Suddenly Iris saw Haruto, and she had a feeling that she knew him. Haruto replied that she had never met before, and she let it slide. Following this, Iris said goodbye, and Charlotte told Haruto that she was someone special. Haruto remembered Lisa saying the same thing, but he was planning on getting kicked out of school anyway. In the following days, Haruto learned from his clone that he needs to take a proficiency test before the entrance ceremony. Haruto too refused to write the test for him. At that moment, Haruto planned to show his incompetence so that he wouldn't have to go to school anymore. Haruto had a plan to get himself expelled from school, and he ran to the entrance. Suddenly, Professor Polkos appeared, and he asked Haruto to follow him. Then he planned to fail his test in order to get kicked out of school. Haruto looked at his test and realized that he didn't understand the questions at all. So he wrote down some answers, but he found questions about barrier magic that he answered correctly. The reason for this was that he didn't want to attract attention by trying to answer everything wrong. A short time later, he realized that he had unintentionally answered almost all of the questions. Then the teacher said that the second exam will measure his mana level. Haruto thought that it wasn't a problem because his mana power was at level 2. Afterwards, he heard a voice and he spotted a little girl. Teresa looked at Haruto and she said that she likes his face. Haruto was confused and she said that she is a professor of the school that researched ancient magic. Additionally, Teresa said that if he get on her bad side, she will send him home before the entrance ceremony. She was surprised that he saw hope in her words, and Haruto learned that Teresa is a weirdo. Afterwards, Professor Polkos reminded her about the exam, and she was surprised by his answers. Following this, they start measuring his mana power, and they were shocked that the magical item exploded. Haruto thought that the junk was cheap stuff made in China. He hoped that Teresa would kick him out of school, but she began to admire him. Then Professor Polkos said that Haruto's mana is level 2, but Teresa was sure that he has infinite magical power. She also praised his great answers about ancient magic because Haruto was able to answer the questions at the level of a royal magician. That's when Haruto realized his plan had failed and he was shocked. So Teresa decided to take him under her wing because she learned that Haruto is special. Teresa offered him to join her research, but he immediately declined. Haruto thought that she was trying to bully him and he left the room. Later he told his clone about what had happened. Haruto too cheered him up and they both didn't give up on getting kicked out of school. In the days that followed, Charlotte gave Haruto too a pistol. She told him that Haruto wishes him good luck in carrying out his duties. He wasn't in the mood to go to school because he was just a copy. In addition, he wanted a protection spell casted on him instead of being given a pistol for self-defense. In the afternoon, the events for the first day of school were over, but he met a crowd of extroverts on the way. Haruto too was also an introvert like his original, who tried not to stand out at school. Suddenly the nobleman turned around and spoke to a girl. So Haruto got into trouble and Schneider complained because he wasn't greeted by the two students. Iris apologized and asked if it was part of the school's policy to greet Vice President Schneider. Haruto too pretended to have a stomachache, but Schneider didn't fall for his trick. As a result, Schneider decided to teach him manners, and he ran away from his punishment. Schneider attacked him with fire magic, and Haruto too was protected with barrier magic. Iris was shocked and thought that Haruto was seriously injured. Suddenly he stood up and he realized that he had not suffered any damage from the attack. Haruto too was a bad actor, and Schneider didn't believe his performance. Meanwhile, Iris understood that she caused Haruto too trouble and she apologized to him. However, Schneider became angry because he was ignored. Haruto too tried to protect Iris and he took out his pistol. He shot at Schneider to stop his attack and he immediately ran away. A few hours later he told Haruto about his terrible day. He said he also ran into Teresa, who dragged him into her office to talk with him about ancient magic. In the evening, he received a letter from Schneider, who challenged him to a duel. He refused and was told that if he rejected, he would ruin his family's honor. In addition, he was not allowed to deliberately lose, and Iris was eavesdropping his conversation about his duel. Haruto was annoyed with the vice president, and he looked at his security camera, so he saw that Iris was planning to go to the arrogant noble's house. Later, Iris met Schneider, and she said that it was all her fault. She unintentionally made him angrier by saying that he was injured and couldn't fight in a duel. Haruto was disgusted with Schneider, and he was worried about Iris. Then Iris said that she would accept any punishment and that he should reclaim his duel challenge. Schneider replied that she should dance naked in front of everyone in the room. Iris blushed, but she was willing to dance naked because she caused problems for Haruto. Following this, she started to undress and all the boys stared at her. Then the boys laughed at her and Haruto couldn't believe that she was ready to completely expose herself. Then he turned off the lights and appeared as a black knight to save her. He told her to get dressed again, and he ordered her to go home. He then punished Schneider and said that they were teleported to a special dimension. Schneider tried to attack him, but Black Knight cast a painful spell on him. Following this, he listed the reasons why he came to punish Schneider. He said he wasn't allowed to beat up new students. Additionally, he said he was punished for sexually harassing an innocent girl. Black Knight said that he should be ashamed, and as punishment he will live with the spell on his shoulder for a while. Before he left, Haruto said that he would dispel the spell after atoning for his sin and withdrawing the duel challenge. When he returned to his room, a student tried to heal him, but he felt even more pain. He was angry, and he wanted revenge on Haruto, who introduced himself as Shiva. In the following morning, Haruto was praised by all the teachers because they heard that he had defeated Schneider. He actually thought the school would kick him out instead of being praised. Then he realized that others were talking about him, and he didn't want to cause any more attention. On the way to his room, he was spotted by Professor Teresa, and he couldn't escape. Teresa tried to convince him to join her research lab. Unfortunately, she didn't give up, and he was forced to listen to her. Haruto learned about the world's professions, and she tried to convince him to join her research lab. Suddenly Laius appeared, and he was happy to see him. Haruto didn't recognize him and wondered why he was attacked. Meanwhile, Marianne showed up and she admonished her brother for not greeting Haruto like a normal person. Then the misunderstanding was cleared up and he asked what Marianne wanted from him. Afterwards, Marianne asked if he would like to join her research lab. Unfortunately, everyone wanted to spend time with Haruto. Laios was worried about Haruto and warned him that Teresa was a useless teacher. However, Teresa said that he is just a little boy, but Laios made her angry. Then they started arguing, and Marianne wanted Haruto to choose a club. Iris appeared out of nowhere, and she said that she just wanted to talk to Haruto for a moment. Haruto knew it was his chance to escape the situation, so he said that he had plans with Iris and they ran away. Haruto successfully managed to escape, and he asked Iris what she wanted to talk about. Suddenly she asked if he was the same person she met yesterday. He was shocked that she had noticed the difference between him and his clone, so he instinctively activated his alarm barrier, and Iris could sense his invisible barrier. Haruto asked how she had noticed the difference, and he learned that she could sense his overwhelming mana. At that moment, he suspected that she was a special person like Flay. Haruto asked if she is a demon. Iris was worried that she looked like a demon, but she said that she is a human. Following this, Haruto dissolved his barrier, and he understood that she is not a danger to him. Iris promised to keep his secret, and she apologized for causing him problems. Additionally, she asked Haruto to become friends with her because she had never had friends in her life. Afterwards, Haruto learned that she was also abandoned, and he learned that she suffered an even sadder fate than him. However, Iris said she was raised by a priest, but he died when she was 5 years old. Haruto replied that he had never had friends himself, and Iris was motivated to learn common sense with him. Haruto accepted, and he learned that she plans to enroll in the research lab for ancient magic. Then he decided to be friends with Iris, and he made her very happy. Haruto introduced himself again, and they got to know each other. Meanwhile, we see Haruto's girls, and they were all sad because Haruto didn't have any time since school started. They missed him, and Charlotte's instinct told her that something interesting happened in Haruto's life. Then Lisa said that she admired Flay because she took her job as a maid seriously, and she was able to cheer Flay up. Flay told Lisa about her old job and the previous Demon King. She said he was a nice person who tried to create a paradise where humans and demons could coexist. Unfortunately, the Flash Princess thwarted his plan, and he planned to be reincarnated as a human. Because of this, Flay believed that Haruto was the previous Demon King. Then Lisa learned the previous Demon King's name, and her name was Irisphilia. Following this, Haruto proved that he got Riz and he made Iris blush. Haruto said goodbye, but Iris stopped him and she wanted to choose the classes with him. In the evening they went to his room and he didn't thought his plan to seduce Iris would work. He opened the door, but Charlotte was waiting for her big brother. Charlotte thought that Iris was his girlfriend, and he explained to her that they were just friends. Following this, he learned of her plan that Charlotte was planning to be his second wife. He didn't take her words seriously because he thought she was just kidding. After that, Charlotte introduced herself, and she was happy to meet Iris. Haruto told Charlotte that they had to choose their classes. A short time later, Charlotte noticed that Iris was confused, and she explained to her that Haruto is a genius. Then he got tired of it and let Charlotte choose his classes. Iris was surprised that he just let Charlotte choose his subjects, and he praised his little sister for her good work. After that, Iris wondered if Haruto had a specific goal at school. Charlotte still thought her brother was infiltrating villains at school. Then she said that Haruto has an important mission at school, but he is not allowed to tell her. Iris was just as innocent as Charlotte, and she believed Charlotte's words. Afterwards, Charlotte said that she had achieved her goal, and she said goodbye to them. Following this, Haruto distracted Iris so she wouldn't find out about his hidden teleportation door. A few days later we see Charlotte waking Haruto up for school, and he wasn't happy about going to school. Haruto got ready for school, and Charlotte explained his schedule for his day. This is how he found out that he will be placed into C class based on his entrance exam. She believed that he could make it to A class, but Haruto didn't want to be among the best. Before he left for school, Charlotte asked him for a hug. He wished him a lot of fun at school and told him to take care of himself on his secret mission. Later he teleported to the school and Iris met his attendant Lisa. She introduced herself and was happy to meet Lisa. After this they went to school, and Iris was surprised that Haruto wasn't placed in A class. Suddenly Lisa asked him about Iris because she sensed a strong demon aura within her. Afterwards, Haruto entered his class, and everyone looked at him strangely. He remembered that since he defeated Schneider, everyone knows him. Then class started, and Haruto planned to get expelled from school. Following this, a test was handed out to the students, and he realized that he knows all the answers because he studied with Charlotte. He thought that his teacher planned to see how smart his students were, and Haruto only planned to answer 60% of the questions correctly. A few moments later, Haruto's class teacher said that the average person only answered 20% of the questions correctly. He praised that Haruto was the only person who could answer 60% of the questions, and he was shocked by the news. At that moment he realized that he had made a big mistake because Charlotte was a genius. A short time later, he entered his new class, and he was immediately kidnapped by his fans. Haruto didn't want to be transferred to the A class, and he was tired. Then their class teacher showed up, and Professor Tori said that she is an expert in elemental magic. She was immediately annoyed with Haruto's group, and she threatened to kick Haruto's group out if they couldn't answer all questions. Then the lesson began, and Tori learned that Iris had mastered all the elements. She saw a lot of potential in Iris, and asked her to join her research lab. Unfortunately, she declined, and Professor Tori continued the lesson. Haruto was curious about Iris's status, and used his barrier magic to find out her abilities. Following this, Laios was asked a question and his answer was not complete. Haruto unintentionally answered the question, and he immediately regretted it. The reason for this was that he was the only one who could see hidden abilities, and the people he told about it were Charlotte and his maids. Suddenly Professor Tori said that only the White Owl knows about it. She said that for several years now, a mysterious person has been sending reports about research that is very valuable. Tori asked him to join her research lab, but he refused her offer. Additionally, he wondered who White Owl was, and he had a guess that it was his little sister. After class, Iris and Haruto joined Teresa's research lab. Teresa said that they were going to have a welcoming party, and Haruto too was angry, because Haruto didn't want to go to the research lab. Suddenly they heard Professor Polko screaming, and they thought someone was murdered. Haruto realized it was just Schneider. Then Teresa said that Schneider was most likely affected by an ancient spell. She planned to use him as a test subject for her researches. So Iris was ordered to try to break the ancient spell, and Teresa revealed that Schneider felt pain when touched. Afterwards, Haruto was asked a question, but his answer was wrong, and Iris explained what the difference is between ancient magic and modern magic. Teresa told them that modern magic works for a maximum of half a day. Then she concluded that it was ancient magic, and she said that they have to be at least level 80 to use ancient magic. However, she wondered who the person could be who could use ancient magic, and Iris replied that she is unable to do so. Schneider didn't reveal who cast the spell on him, and he was confused after he woke up. Following this, she suggested a deal to him, but Schneider refused to reveal the culprit's identity. At that moment, she remembered the rumors of a hero of justice, and she questioned Haruto too. Haruto too knew he was in trouble, and he tried to hide the truth that Haruto was Batman. Unfortunately, she became suspicious, and Haruto wondered why he always had to solve the problems. Haruto saved his clone, and Teresa was impressed to meet him. Following this, Haruto learned that the evil syndicate really existed, and he knew that Schneider did not belong to this organization. After that, he intimidated Schneider and he planned to go home. Haruto realized that Teresa had tied him up. He looked at her abilities. However, Teresa planned to force him to answer all her questions, but he freed himself. Haruto cast a spell on her, and she realized that she had to pee. Then she apologized to Black Knight, and he dissolved his spell. As a result, Teresa was able to move and she immediately ran to the toilet. In the evening, Haruto too celebrated a welcome party, and Teresa filled Iris's cup with booze. Then he could feel a passionate gaze from next to him. Polkos apologized and said that he just thought the two were very similar, because they always get dragged into things. Then Haruto learned about Teresa's childhood, and after she was enrolled in the academy, he was asked to continue to look after her. Polko said that Teresa was a genius who had created many new spells and wondered why she wanted to research ancient magic. Meanwhile, Iris was drunk, and she ran to Haruto to hug him. He was surprised to see a new side of her, and she wanted to share booze with him. Then Iris started drinking more and she cuddled up to him. He realized she had fallen asleep on his lap, and he didn't know what he should do. After that, a drunk Teresa showed up and she planned to tell Haruto why Iris wanted to study ancient magic. Teresa found out during her mana assessment for the entrance exam that Iris has all the elements. Haruto learned that she was studying ancient magic because she wanted to find a way to increase her mana level. So Teresa said that she would like to help Iris fulfill her dream. Followed, everyone fell asleep, and Haruto too also went to sleep in the room. Meanwhile, Schneider planned to kill Haruto and his friends. He sent assassins to eliminate them at night, and he was unaware that Haruto knew about their plan. Following this, the assassins were prepared to murder Haruto and his friends. They rushed to the building, but Haruto activated a barrier that prevented them from entering. They realized that an invisible wall had been activated around the entire building. Then the leader tried to destroy the barrier, but he couldn't even make a scratch. Suddenly, a mysterious door appeared, and one of the assassins disappeared. They realized that Shiva is dangerous, and more doors appeared. As a result, more assassins were kidnapped, and the leader concentrated to sense the next attack. Black Knight opened a door and he was attacked by an assassin with fire magic. They thought they had defeated the enemy, but another Black Knight appeared. Afterwards, countless Black Knights appeared and the assassins were confused. Suddenly the real Haruto appeared, and he was attacked. He immediately used a spell that immobilized his enemies. A short time later, all of the assassins were defeated, and he appeared in Schneider's room. Schneider said that he doesn't know the people, and Haruto showed him a video evidence where assassins were sent to murder Haruto. He didn't accept his defeat, and he used a steroid item that turned him into a monster. Haruto was surprised by his opponent, and he was attacked by Schneider. He was thrown out the window, and he didn't know that steroids existed in the isekai world. Following this, Schneider planned to eliminate him, and Haruto thought about a plan to defeat him. Suddenly, Charlotte called him on FaceTime, and her instinct said that something great was happening with Haruto. He replied that the evil syndicate had turned a human into a monster, and she asked him to save the human. Then Haruto was attacked, and he realized that Schneider was very strong. So he attacked with a barrier power punch, but it didn't work. He was crushed by Schneider, and he surrounded his enemy with many barriers. As a result, he was able to free himself, and he thought about how he could turn Schneider back into a human. Haruto was surprised that Schneider was able to regenerate, and he was attacked again. Then Charlotte said that she noticed that his enemy had shrunk. So Haruto activated a rain of katana blades, and Charlotte was excited to see his new special attack. Haruto then put on a great show to entertain his little sister, and he began to activate his attack. Following this, he thanked Charlotte for her help in the fight, and she liked her big brother's show. Afterwards, he took care of Schneider and he tried to run away from Black Knight. Then he repaired the mansion and planned to go to sleep. Later, Haruto too woke up, and he told Haruto that he was having a lot of fun with his new life. Haruto agreed with him, but he was surprised that he was able to enjoy life despite all the problems. Then Haruto said that he thinks the same, and he replied that he is happy to have met all the nice people. In the followed morning, Flay attempted to assist her master in his secret mission. Suddenly a group of men appeared, and she punished them for disturbing her on her mission. A few hours later, Charlotte was told what had happened, and she came up with strange theories again. She then showed a video recording of Haruto's fight yesterday, and they worshipped their beloved Haruto. Then Charlotte said that Schneider is the vice president of the school council, and she was sure that the evil syndicate knew about Haruto's power. She was worried about Haruto, but Flay said that no one in the world is stronger than Haruto. Suddenly Charlotte said that they have to support him to stop the evil syndicate. All members of the round table agreed, and Lisa said that they needed a name for their organization. As a result, they called themselves Camelot, and Haruto secretly watched them. He realized he was having fun and continued trying to make his family happy.